Senator Bovey.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable colleagues, in speaking to third reading of this declaration respecting the essential role of artists and creative expression in Canada, I want to start with sincere thanks to and on behalf of Canada's artists and arts organizations, as well as audiences from all corners of our country. The interest and support, and indeed requests for this bill, have resounded from artists and arts workers in all creative disciplines and from every region of Canada.
It was an honor to hear their concerns and to develop with them this platform for a better understanding of their work and their worth for Canada. It will be a base for the development of the necessary policies in the arts, museums, venues, museums, publishing houses, and others.
600 people involved in my consultations, all of whom made poignant and insightful contributions to this declaration. I thank you. As you know, colleagues, these focus groups, meetings, and interviews included individuals of all ages, from high school to those in their 90s, all art forms and sizes of organizations, Indigenous, Black, immigrant, non-Indigenous, disabled, Francophone and Anglophone people from every part of Canada, east, centre, west, north, south, large cities, and rural and small communities. The discussions were heartfelt and based on their experiences, training, and professions. The conclusions embedded in this declaration cut to the chase as to the integral roles and impacts of the arts to Canadian society, while emphasizing the critical needs of the sector, especially those needs to improve the often pitiful incomes of those involved. I also want to thank the witnesses to the Social Affairs, Science and Technology Committee for their contributions to the whole. Their knowledge and passion and their expertise in and commitment to their work was of great help in coming to the unanimous conclusions we did. À mes collègues.
To my colleagues, jury members, thank you. Your interest and your questions, sincere interest, have improved this declaration. I support unreservedly the amendments that better clarify the details of the regional scope of this bill. Thank you for having improved it.
You know, this declaration, with its 10 points and implementation strategies, is intended to be the platform for much-needed policy revisions, updates, and parameters for the creative section in this country, the third largest employer in our nation, yet one whose creators comprise the largest percentage of workers living below the poverty line. May it assist in addressing these realities and make the sector not only better within, but increase its ability to serve every part of contemporary life in Canada. As senators, we all know how intrinsic creative expression is to our whole, and its truly positive impacts to our health and well-being, crime prevention, reduction in recidivism rates, our employment and economy, tourism, Canada's international perceptions and standings, the environment, rural sustainability, and of course, our knowledge of who we are. Indeed, the work and outcomes of every ministry are impacted. It is trite, perhaps, to repeat that our artists portray who we are, our places, our ideas, and our issues, but it is necessary to do so if we are to move the perception of the arts from frill to its rightful place as anchor in our society. As former Senator Murray Sinclair has said, and which I have quoted a number of times in various publications, and indeed yesterday in this chamber, art validates cultures. At a time of working towards reconciliation, many of the necessary reconciliations are indeed culturally based. J'espère que cette déclaration
I hope that this declaration will help Canadian society to go across these stages. Amendments were adopted unanimously, and we hope that it will be the same for Francophone, Black, and other communities.
Maxwell Bates wrote in 1962 of his own work, "I am an artist who for 40 years has stood at the lake edge, throwing stones in the lake. Sometimes very faintly, I hear a splash." His splash was far greater than he realized, and so too is the splash of Canada's artists and arts organizations in all dimensions of all sizes. I hope this bill, this declaration, will be at least a faint splash in furthering the understanding and needs of the work and contributions of this insightful, innovative sector as it weaves all aspects of society together and leads us to a better place. Senator Cormier a décrit la complexité.
Senator Cormier describes the complexity of the sector, and I agree with him. This complexity, it is even greater for historic arts. But as I said already in this house, artists have clearly told us who we are, what we should cherish, and what we should address as a society. Arts have as many philosophers have told us, nourish our minds just as bread nourishes our bodies.
Louise Half, Indigenous poet from Saskatchewan, wrote 2 poems about the roots and needs of artists, indeed underlying the purpose of this declaration. I asked her for one, and she came with 2. I read them. For your pleasure. Black tie, evening gowns, blue jeans, funky dresses, people aligned for the symphony, theater, a rock concert, or Leonard Cohen. They stroll through a museum, view beadwork, paintings, watch historical documents, walk from painting to painting, stall to stall at artisan sale, sit in odd silence, the cat ballerinas on stage, tap their feet at a fiddle dance, admire colorful regalia, and chant with the powwow drums. Their commissioned sculptures command a street corner. Choirs at the symphony commemorate veterans. A tapestry of Canada geese feed in the prairie fields. One of the group of 7 in a medical building. Artists, working as waitresses, ushers, bus or cab drivers, shovel barn manure. Others are lucky enough to have a spouse to pay their rent. The muse nibbles and nudges, their fingers guide them to a coffee shop, a studio to listen to the urge, to leave to you a recreation of life. And she wrote a celebration of the arts. Poets, dancers, musicians, singers, painters, paupers beg on bleeding knees at the foot of dreams. The muse watches as the artists push thigh deep through the wingless angels in a winter storms. In summer rains they part the mist-filled fog cup the tears of creativity. Paupers living in squalor, church basements, taking refugees and libraries to keep their bodies warm, work for pennies to pay rent, buy macaroni, sell their bodies, a few pieces of art, words of poetry they recite to 4 people. Paupers unable to pay for prescriptions, dental work, glasses, shop at the Sally Ann, line up at the food banks. There is no bank account, life savings, no insurance, bus pass. If the paperwork for Minji grants passes the muster of critical eyes and serious competitions, mouths will be fed. Darkness is invasive, consumes the heart with drugs, alcohol binges, and yet the artist's muse hangs on walls, dances in theaters, sings on stage, collects on shelves, while they feed on the leftovers. People pass the buster's guitar, violin or harmonica, making a living on finger bones. Colleagues, I ask you to support the 3rd reading of this bill and send it to the House of Commons quickly so their deliberations can begin and hopefully result in recognizing the value and importance of this sector. I ask you to remember my late husband's words, "We are all better off when we are all better off." Canada's artists and creative expression do make us better off, and they have the capacity to do so even more with the recognition this bill gives. Encore une fois, je vous...
Once again, thank you all for your interest and support. Feelings that were expressed to me by people on the field throughout the country were the enthusiasm that this Bill S-208 inspired in them. I know that once again, they will be very thankful when this bill enters into force. Thank you.